Hey everybody, this is Coach Lisle, and this is episode 1 of the Ask Coach Lisle show. If you're just tuning in, I receive a lot of emails each week about advice on everything from baseball to softball, coaching and recruiting. And I just thought this would be a good forum to be able to answer some of your questions and hopefully give you some advice that can improve your game. All right, so let's get into the show. Darren, what's our first question of the night?
Our first question from tonight is from Matt in Vancouver. What do you think about using a step when you're at bat in softball?
So one of the questions I actually get a lot is about stepping or striding in the stance, and I can tell you there's not as much in baseball, but in softball there are a lot of coaches out there who have given hitters advice about not striding. And I understand the process behind that. I understand that widening out the stance and just getting the foot down, it does help increase contact. It just kind of takes out some moving parts. And that can be helpful for that, but it takes away a lot of power. It takes away a lot of the weight transfer. It takes away a lot of the kind of force into the ball. And so I highly do not recommend removing the stride from the swing. I would really focus on having a good stride. And so for me, I would really advise against it. The only people that I think that can really do a good job of it are guys who are really big, like maybe like a Lauren Chamberlain in softball, Albert Pujols, or David Ortiz in baseball. You know, really large, strong players who are able to kind of just have this wide base, don't need a lot of weight transfer. And so I would definitely, incorporate the stance in the swing and the stride in every single swing. What do you got for us next, Aaron?
All right, our next question comes from Spencer. Quick question. My 14-year-old son is getting conflicting instructions on his grip. Is it mandatory he line up his knuckles?
So grip is a question I get a lot about, sometimes about knocker knuckles aligning. And so I'll tell you that, for me and a lot of hitters, and I would say 90% of hitters, lining up the knocker knuckles is not very comfortable. And so for me, it's really a comfort thing. If you like to have your knocker knuckles lined up, I would say, make sure you line these knuckles up like this. But for me and most hitters, I would say 90% of major league hitters and college players, I would say really do a good job of the ring knuckles. And so I kind of lined up the rings here, the big knuckles of the top hand with the big little knuckles of the bottom hand. And so for me, this is more comfortable. I would say this is more of the grip that most hitters have. Line up the knocker knuckles, again, I said, are not comfortable for me, but I would say that if you're comfortable with that, I have no problem with that. I don't really change grip very much unless if someone has their big knuckles lined up like this. We don't talk a whole lot about grip, but like I said, unless it gives someone some issues. And so knocker knuckles are not that important to me, and I definitely wouldn't force a hitter to do it, especially if they're not comfortable. So that's what I have for you. Darren, what do you got for me next?
Next question comes from Jessica. What do coaches look for most when scouting players?
So scouting players, as a college coach, when we go out there, for me, and I can speak for a lot of other college coaches that I know, we go out looking for athletes, for the best athletes on the field. And so, a lot of times we get questions from travel ball coaches like, what are you looking for? And we tell them, hey, we're looking for your best athletes. We're not looking for your best third baseman. For most players, and I know a lot of colleges that recruit only shortstops because their shortstops can play first base, they can play all of the field. And so we're looking for athletes when we're watching them. I'm looking for power at the plate. I'm looking for power arms, power bats, and just athletes. And I would say lastly, the thing that we really scout for is just players who love to play the game, get after it. They're sliding, they're diving, they're all over the field. And so for us, I would say that when we're out there scouting, we're looking for just great athletes. And so that's what I would say about regarding how we look for scouting. Darren, what do you got for us?
Okay, our next question comes from John. How can I increase bat speed?
The bat speed question is probably the question I get the most. How can I increase bat speed? And I would say that really, I always tell our hitters, the secret is having a good swing. And so it's really not a secret formula to having great bat speed. I would tell you that having good mechanics would be the number one thing. The second thing I would say is that we actually do a lot of work around bat speed with some of our hitters. I would say that some of the things that we do are overload, underload training. We'll go with heavy bats and light bats. We'll hit heavy balls. We'll hit light balls. So we do have a bat speed program for our hitters that have good mechanics. We just don't like to do a whole lot of bat speed training if they don't have good mechanics. So because swinging hard and having bat speed really isn't that important if you don't have a good bat path. And so I would say that to increase bat speed, good swing mechanics, and once you have those good swing mechanics, I would say there's all kinds of things: medicine ball tosses, overload, underload training, strengthening your core. There's a lot of different ways that we can increase bat speed.
Our next question comes from Mike. Do you teach to hit for average or for power? I see some coaches stressing the power aspect more than just hitting the good line drives.
I would say that I would teach both. I think that both are really important. What I tell my kids a lot in clinics is that the lower half and the core are the engine of the car. That's where all the power is, and that the arms and the shoulders are really about steering the car. And so I think you have to have both of those to have a good swing. I don't think you can have a ton of power and not have good control of the bat. And I don't think you can have great control of the bat and have no power and have success. And so I would say that teaching power in body movements would be the most important thing we focus on, and then really focusing on being able to control that power with good bat path and stuff like that. And so I would say that we probably focus a little bit more on the power side of it, but depending on the player, I would say we spend some time on power, sometimes on contact, but it's really a mix of both things are really important.
Okay, one of our viewers who is watching right now wants to know, is there a difference between a softball swing or the baseball swing? And this is coming from the Furbinator.
So I would say absolutely not. There's no difference in the baseball and softball swing. And I know there's a lot of people who disagree with that and argue with it. I would tell you that the contact points are the same. And the main argument that we get for that is about the rise ball, which I totally understand. For us as hitters and the hitters that I work with, the college and pro softball players, is that we do the best job that we can to recognize rise ball and stay off of it. It's hard. I get that very much. But for us, we do our best to try to stay off of it, stay off that rise spin and that high pitch. It's not even a strike anyway. And so the swing is exactly the same. The major league players that I work with and the pro softball players, college softball players, and even the 12-year-old girls, I teach them all the same swing. And I would say there's absolutely no difference in the swing. There is difference, like I said, in how the ball comes in slightly, but the contact points, the reaction times are pretty similar. There really isn't any difference in the baseball and softball swing. And I can get a lot more into that another time, but for now, 100% believe that they are the exact same swing. At the elite level, I would say that their bad swings are bad swings and good swings are good swings, but the elite swing is exactly the same baseball and softball.
Okay, our next question comes from Richard in Colorado. His question is, who do you think has the best swing in baseball right now?
That's a really tough one because you've got guys like Mike Trout, you've got Chris Bryant, who have these very vertical swing paths, who have great swings. They do a great job with that swing. But I would say that I wouldn't teach that swing to a lot of my college hitters and a lot of even my minor league guys. I would not teach that swing path unless they were really good with that and had a lot of success with that. So I would say Miguel Cabrera is a great hitter. I love his swing mechanics. But honestly, I would say, and they're on the same team, Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista are two guys that I love their sequence. They're from stance to stride. When that foot gets down, their sequence is hips, shoulders, hands, and their sequence is incredible. I love studying guys' mechanics who are average size guys that have great success and output. I'm not a huge fan of studying guys like David Ortiz or some of the bigger guys. Even though they have great swings and they have great athleticism, I like to see the guys and study the guys who are more average size hitters that have a lot of success. And so if I had to choose one person to really study, I would say Donaldson, Bautista. Those are two guys that I love their sequence. I love their bat path. And those are the guys that to me are the most fun to watch.
Okay, our next question comes from @Alan Puck, who is now watching. How can I develop opposite field power?
Opposite field power. That's an interesting question because really, it's really about a question of whether or not you only have pull power. So if you're saying I only have pull power and I can't do opposite field, then obviously there's something going on in your swing that's causing that problem. For a lot of hitters that have a pull problem and they can't go to opposite field, it's usually, again, like their sequence is off. Instead of their hips and core leading the way, their shoulders are leading the way. They're opening up, flying open, and they're just having a hard time going to opposite field. And so I think just having a good swing path really would change that. If the sequence was good, the hips were going first, the barrel and the bat stayed behind the ball, I think that it would be a lot easier to do that. But if the hands lead the way or shoulders lead the way, it's just difficult for that hitter to go to opposite field and have power to that side. So having a good bat path, having the barrel stay behind the shoulder as your hips are rotating that first move, I think that would help a lot. So just kind of getting your sequence in order.
Our next question comes from Drew. What's the best way to get a good team batting practice in? It's hard to get a good quality team batting practice in going because of how many players I have on my team. What's a good way to ensure that all the kids get good quality batting practice?
Batting practice and hitting with a team setting is difficult because like in our program, we've got hitters who have tons of different deficiencies. And so I don't like having them all do the same drills and hitting stations and go around to each station and do the same exact drill. So in our players, although we spend a little more time doing it, each player has some specific things they're working on. I would say to really focus on the main things that you want them to work on. And for us, every day we work on stride. Every day we work on bat path. Every day we work on hip movement and getting our hips going first. So I would really focus making sure that the movements they're doing are all the same. And then I would work on, in BP, I would really work on just swinging it. And so for us, in a team setting, I would try to figure out what do your hitters have the most problems with, and allow them to have some hitting stations that have some freedom to it. So, for example, we'll always have a hitting station that's like do your own station, and so one of our players might have something that they're working on specifically, and at that station they'll do that. So in a team setting, I would again have some swing away stations, but also have some movement pattern stuff, and then open some stations to be able to work on some of your own things.
Okay, our next question comes from the package deal. Who is your favorite package deal member?
What a funny question. The package deal. I'll tell you one thing first I want to say is the package deal is great. I don't know if you guys follow them on Twitter and Facebook. They've got a great, they do some great clinics, some great camps. I love what they do for the sport of softball, going around and teaching the game, but also teaching it in a really positive way. I'm a big fan of that. I would say that my favorite package deal member, that's really hard. Katie and Morgan, I don't know that well, but I think they do a great job. I would say that Amanda has helped me a lot in my journey in softball, so I know I owe Amanda a lot. Jen has helped me out a lot, so I'm not going to touch that answer at all. I would say that I love all of them equally. Jen and Amanda have really helped me a lot. They've become good friends of mine, and I would say that bottom line is if you're not following the package deal or going to their camps, make sure you sign up and go follow them. They have a great product, and they do a great job working with kids, and so I highly recommend what they're doing, and I like all of them. That's the answer.
Okay, our next question comes from @CoachFrank. What's the recommended amount of tee work time versus machine or live pitching batting practice?
It really depends. So for us, I look at working on the tee as movement pattern stuff. So if we're developing a swing, like this morning, working with a major league player, we worked out the tee for about 5 minutes and really working on this movement pattern stuff. Okay, working on our hips going, we're working on our bat path, and so developing swing patterns. And we really focus a lot of time on tee. We kind of graduate to front toss as they get better, and then go live. And so if you're trying to implement something, I would say stay away from live and front toss because things are going to break down. Muscle memory is going to go right back to the beginning of the way it always was. So stay away from that if you're trying to build a swing. In the fall, we do a lot of building the swing. We do a lot of tee work, a lot of front toss. And as the season goes on, we get to January and the spring, we spend a lot more time on live and just getting hacks in because hopefully by then the muscle memory is built. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to develop a swing and really spend a lot of time on muscle memory, work on the movement patterns. Don't spend a lot of time swinging. I would do a lot of stuff without swinging at all. Just getting in front of the mirror and working on the swing. And then graduate to tees, and then graduate to front toss, and then graduate to live. So that's what I would recommend in regards to the number of swings. I would say most of our hitters really try to get at least 100 swings in a day. Some have more. Say some are even hitting 200 swings a day. But really kind of develop it based on what you're trying to work on.
Our next question comes from a listener and viewer @Jomos411. My son is 9. When should he be introduced to a wooden bat and how to make the transition?
Wooden bat question. That's a good question. I would say that I would only use wood bats in the cage or in practice. I think it teaches feel really well. I don't think, unless you really believe he's going to be a major leaguer anytime soon, I would really not worry about the wood bat, unless it's in practice. In the cages, I would work wood bat if you want. On the field in practice, I would. But in the games, if it was my son, I don't want him using a wood bat versus kids who are using better bats. And so for me, I would really just stick to it in training and working out, kind of developing the hands. In wood bats, there's definitely some more weight in the handle of the bat, and so it kind of develops a little bit of hand strength. But I would definitely not recommend using a wood bat in any type of game situation.
Next question comes from Stacy At what age should I start my son to play travel ball?
Travel, that's a tough question. I would say that kind of based on the community that you live in and the instruction that you're getting, I would try to do the fun as long as you can. And I would say Little League or, having some fun local community teams as long as you possibly can. And then from there, I would really work on figuring out, how much he really loves the game, and then go kind of looking for travel ball from there. Get some good parents together, and I would just really look for a good group of coaches and parents. So it kind of depends on the kid. I would say between 8 and 12 years old is, and it's really kind of dependent on your son, how much he wants to play. But again, like parents, my best advice is as long as they are driving it, they want to do it, I'm all for it. But if you're the one kind of driving the, hey, we should do travel ball and play 150 games a year, and they're not really that into it, I would slow that process down further and kind of figure out. But I would focus most of the time on fun in that area.
Okay, our next question comes from Yamar6. How should a hitter prepare mentally?
That's a tough question. How should hitters prepare mentally? I would say that there's so many different ways. In the box, I don't know if you're talking about. So the process that we have is that when our hitters get in the hole, getting ready to bat, they're starting to get focused on what their plan is, having this aggressive approach. I would say when they get into the on-deck circle, they're working on timing. That's the time that we focus on timing, figuring out when do we need to get our foot down, just really focusing on timing, slowing our breathing down, and in that situation. And then once they get in the batter's box, our routine really is about breathing, slowing down our breath, slowing down our heart rate, relaxing, and then starting to get focused with a yes, yes, no approach of just being aggressive at the plate, saying, hey, I'm going to attack this ball, and being really aggressive at the plate. And so I would say the mental side of it really would be about, attacking, being relaxed, and not thinking about swing mechanics. So the one thing I want to encourage hitters as much as they can is to make sure you leave the swing mechanics in the cages, keep them out of the field. Once you get into the batter's box, the only thing you should be thinking about is yes, yes, no. Really clear the mechanism in a sense, and make sure your mind is quiet mentally to swing.
Okay. Our next question comes from Jess, and the question is here: do you have a recommendation on travel ball for a young college player who's looking to go to college, who's in high school?
When it comes to travel ball in high school and I know I get this question a lot, like how can I get more exposure? I would tell you that that's a tough one. There's so many out there right now. I would say the Perfect Game stuff's pretty good. In California, you've got Trotsky. He does a pretty good job with his showcase camps. And so, trying to figure out the balance of, doing some showcase stuff and travel ball stuff. I would tell you that the experience is more important than exposure. And so if I was a high school parent, if I was a parent of a high schooler, I would try to find a really good coach. That would be the number one thing, is who's the best coach around, who's going to really develop my son. And the second thing is when they play in tournaments, if they're going to play travel ball, where does that team go? Do they play in tournaments where there's going to be a lot of college coaches there? I can tell you, when I've coached travel ball, baseball back in the day, I know many players that we've coached that haven't been starters on their high school team and have ended up getting Division I scholarships in baseball because at travel ball they went to the right tournament. There's the right coaches there at the right time. So I would try to get into front of as many coaches as you can when it comes to travel ball. Figure out where they're going, what tournaments they're playing in. And I think lastly, the least important thing is playing on a prestigious team. I think getting reps are more important, development is more important, but I really think that development should be number one key, and then making sure that you get in front of good coaches.
Okay, our last question of the night comes from Hillary. What's your opinion on moving up in the box to cut off movement?
So I'll tell you, I'm much different than other coaches in regards to these things. So in softball, here's what I would tell our hitters, and hopefully none of my opponents are listening. What we do in the box with a drop ball pitcher, especially that drops off the table really low, maybe like a Jessica Moore, we move in the very back of the box for two reasons. Number one, we always want more reaction time. In softball, reaction time is key, so we want a lot of reaction time. So we're going to move in the back of the box. And if we know this pitcher is a drop ball pitcher and we know that they hammer down low in the zone, we're going to get in the back of the box, try to read that drop ball, and stay away from it. That's our goal against a hitter. I can tell you, at Santa Clara last year, we played against, I'm not sure, can't remember who the team was, but in the first game we faced them, drop ball pitcher, she kind of shut us down. We moved in the front of the box, she got us beat. Next game we moved in the back of the box, same pitcher, we laid off that drop ball, and we hammered her and scored 5 runs in the first inning. And I would say the same thing goes for the rise ball. For us, we're in the very back of the box, we're getting as much reaction time as we can, read time off that pitch, and hopefully by the time it gets up to the top of the zone, it's out of the zone anyway, and we force them to work down into the zone. So I would say that I like to move back in the box all the time. If you watch Major League games, they're always scratching out the back of the box for that reason. They want more time to react to the pitch. I would say that if you have a really slow pitcher and your hitters are having a hard time, that's when I would move up in the box. I understand the arguments for moving up in the box for drop ball pitchers and trying to take out the break. In my experience, when that happens, if they're a good drop ball pitcher, then all we're doing is hitting ground balls now. So we've made contact because it's the bottom of the zone, but we've kind of played into her hand a little bit. The same with the rise ball. Now we're getting balls at the top of the zone before they get out of it. And so my recommendation is the only time to move up in the box for my hitters is when the pitcher is just really slow and we cannot find a way to adjust to her slowness for doing that. And so that's it. All right, so it's time for the big announcement of the night. I want to let you guys know that I'm going to give away 2 ultimate hitting stations on Christmas Day. So when you wake up Christmas morning, that's when the competition will end. And that night, on Christmas night, I'm going to give away a huge ultimate hitting station, okay? So here's what it includes. Number 1, it's going to include a year to thehittingvault.com, a membership with all my drills and everything in there that you need. Number 2, it's going to come with a bow net that you can hit into. Number 3, it's going to come in with a Tanner tee, a great tee to hit with, and you also get a ZEP to put on the end of your bat to measure bat speed and everything else. So that's really good. And lastly, the most exciting giveaway part of it is I'm giving away a Louisville Slugger bat of your choice. Any Louisville Slugger bat they make, even the $400 Xenos and LXTs, it's your choice of bat, baseball or softball. It'll be your choice. So I'm giving away over $1,000 worth of stuff. 2 of them on Christmas Day. Pretty excited about that. It's pretty blessed to have those companies do that. So the best way to enter that contest is go to CoachLisle.com, enter the contest on there, and if you share it on social media, for every friend that you get to sign up, you get additional 2 more entries. So you can get up to 3 entries with your email address if you share it for each one. So you can get a ton of entries into the competition. Really exciting. I'm really excited to be able to give that to you guys. And so go to CoachLisle.com, enter the Christmas giveaway, and it's going to be exciting. So last thing I want to say is I'm going to leave you guys with the question of the day. And each week I want to leave you guys with a question for you guys to answer. So at the end of the show, go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Coach Lisle, and the question of the day will be on there. So here's the question. What is the biggest problem that you or your son or your daughter is facing with hitting? What is the number 1 problem that you face with hitting? As soon as the show's over, go to the webpage, go to the facebook.com/Coach Lisle. I want to know what you guys are dealing with. What kind of problems are you guys dealing with? What is the biggest problem you're facing so that I can start developing some ways to be able to help those things? So go to the question of the day on there. And that's it. So, again, I'm Coach Lisle. Thanks for tuning into episode 1. Make sure to sign up for the Christmas giveaway on CoachLisle.com. And that's all, folks. I'll see you next week on the Ask Coach Lisle Show.